Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Grain Market Blast. It is Friday, the 5th of September. It's the end of the week. I'm not sure where the week went either. As usual, the amazing Angie will be giving us a rapid roundup of the latest pricing flows and market moving news in agricultural markets. But before she does, I'll get the legals out of the way. Nothing discussed in this space. This session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, myself, Ryan, or indeed the magnificent, the glamorous Angie Setzer. How are you?
Oh, I'm here. I'm good. I'm good. Sorry.
All good.
We were having a thing in the office. I had a cat fight, actually. Not really. It wasn't a fight, but it could turn into one, probably, if I'd have left it be. So we had a little cat on cat violence going on. So we're good. We're good though. I'm good. So happy Friday. It is Friday all day, they tell me, till midnight tonight. It's the end of the first week of September, which is also a little mind blowing. So here we are.
A little scary.
I don't like it. But, market wise here, first bullet point, easy for me to think, not say necessarily, was of course stout demand, continues. And so this was the last export sales report of the marketing year for 24-25, which also happy new year. You didn't even know it. We're in a new marketing year, started on Monday. And so, there are some net sale reductions. You will see, old crop bushels rolled forward. So there was some, Mexico, basically, Israel, Colombia, Venezuela, a couple of them. Just basically, you saw some reductions, but those will be, facilitated in new crop. Corn net export sales this morning at 2.1 million metric tons, another massive export sale, figure. Like basically, I am, taken back to 2020, 2021, when this was the last time that we really consistently had 2 million metric ton, corn export sale figures. Like it's been each week. And, it's really one of those things where that's not normal, especially this time of year. Like I can't emphasize enough. We're so busy talking about this unprecedented thing in soybeans. We're completely ignoring the unprecedented thing that's taking place in corn right now when it comes to this just massive sort of start to the export season. What we're seeing there is an overall. And so that's one of the things that I just really, kind of want to reinforce. And I feel like I've been beating this sort of drum for a minute or even the dead horse, if you want to call it that. But, we have this sort of sentiment or this conversation, and I've seen many people say it. I've even seen farmers say it, where it's like, oh, we just need more demand. Girls, we got demand. We got demand falling out our buttholes. It's the supply that we're, which is unrealized at this point, and there's still a lot of questions about it, but that's bullet point number 2. It's the supply that's more than compensating for it. We've had, 3 crop years in a row or so at this point where you've had South America and the US able to produce something really, really decent. And basically what that's done is it's took prices to, historical lows, comparatively speaking, relatively speaking, and we're incentivizing demand. And we're incentivizing demand. We had a conversation yesterday, we do a peer group on Thursdays. If you have interest in joining, just shoot me a note. You can't be anonymous. That's the biggest thing. But, if you're someone who wants to kind of listen in on a bunch of merchandisers talking because you're into that sort of thing, weirdo, you can, let me know. But we had this conversation, just about it yesterday where when it comes to ethanol demand, when it comes to biofuel demand, all of these things, what the market doesn't recognize, or what I think we're slow to recognize, is that you've seen basically inelastic demand come into this market structure. Once you get to where you're blending so much ethanol or biofuel stocks into your fuel supply, it gets difficult to ratchet that back. It has to get really expensive to make it happen. And so that's kind of been the thing that to me has been flying under the radar in the corn market in a big, big way, is that we're looking at pretty phenomenal ethanol margins currently speaking. We're looking at basically humping and dumping max capacity, on the ethanol side of things. We may see the USDA have to kick, ethanol demand for the marketing year down about 25 million bushels. Just looking at NAS data, it looks like, Milo has creeped its way in the South and some of these other things. But from an overall standpoint, we're not going to see a slowdown in ethanol demand either, because you had Japan, you have Vietnam, you have all of these these other countries out there that are adding, going to E10, going to E15. Vietnam can only supply 40% of its ethanol demands at E10, and it's going to go to E15 in 5 years. I doubt they're going to just massively increase the amount of corn that they're planting. It's really going to be a mix of importing more bushels and importing more gallons, more than anything else. And so just kind of on that same vein, we tend to ignore, or we are missing, how much demand has grown in Brazil as well. And that's why a lot of folks have been caught a little bit surprised, off sides, if you will, with the way that the corn export book has been working, because so many people just spent so much time focusing on it's 145 million metric ton. They ignored the fact that ethanol demand growth and all of these other things was happening to where you're going to have domestic demand competition. You're going to see that continue. And I think I mentioned it yesterday, but I just want to say it, one more time. According to Agri-Invest, they're kind of keeping track of the overall ethanol developments, the ethanol demand, what is taking place in Brazil as a whole. And they're basically saying at this point in time that by 2028, you could expect 40 to 45 million metric tons of corn. So 40 million metric tons of corn is a 1.5 billion bushels, 1.6 billion bushels to 45 million metric tons. So that's 1.7 billion. Basically they're saying that your demand for ethanol in Brazil could almost double. It's currently 24 million metric tons. They think by 2028, based on the projects in the works currently, it's going to be 40 to 45 million. That is going to eat up a lot of corn. And we tend to just not pay attention to it. And I think it's a long-term thing. And that is why you are seeing a continuation of really strong exports out of the U.S. One of the best export books that we've had, on record. It's like the top two, if not the top at this point, without China. If China shows up.
And I think that, that's the crucial thing, right?
Yeah. So on the corn side of things, if China shows up, it's going to be a little wonky. Beans, obviously the story is still no China. What are we going to do? But we did see another, we saw a decent, sale week for beans. Again, 818 million metric tons there, down from last week. Obviously last week we were 1.3 million or whatever. We're kind of on the lower end, but still pretty decent. We got a flash sale this morning that was going into unknown. A lot of folks are like, oh, it's China if it's unknown. It could be. It could also be Egypt. It could also be the EU. It could also be some of these other places. My friend Garrett, though, did make an important point this morning that I think a lot of folks need to be, kind of cognizant of, or at least aware of, is that, basically right now the new crop soybean commitments are 2 million metric tons higher, almost 70 million bushels higher than at this point in 1819. So 1819 obviously was the peak of trade war part one, when we had the biggest impact on our reduced exports. That was when China had the ASF, and, they weren't taking beans in. Obviously, the higher number just really shows that we have other buyers, non-China buyers that are engaged in this market. And the other point that I think is really interesting, Eduardo brought it up from Agri-Invest this morning, like Brazilian crushers and, Brazilian exporters currently are fighting over the same beans now. And so you're watching something in South America right now where basically they're somewhat short physical. They just don't really know it yet. So it'll be really interesting to see. I mean, I'm sure people are very well aware. But like you can't send beans to China and crush them at home. And so it is going to be interesting to see kind of how this whole dynamic plays out. And really when it comes down to it, the market's job now is to create arbitrage opportunities. And so we'll see how this all plays out, but I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see, and I've said this a million times, I will reiterate it again and again and again, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised once we get into October to see a lot of those purchases that China has made out of Brazil be switched to loading out of the U.S.
Got you.
We'll watch that, and people get to make money on both sides. Like that's what the fun part about arbitrage is. You get to handle the double the bushels and make half the margin. Super good. But anyway. So, going from demand, obviously, over to supply, high yield expectations remain. StoneX released their update yesterday. They did reduce corn yield a little bit, a couple bushel the acre, I believe is where they went to, down to 186.9. They were that 187-ish. I don't even remember. I blacked out last month. I don't care. Like they're at 186.9 and 53.2 on beans. Allendale came out as well, another group earlier this week, and kind of at that 187 number. I think they were 53 something on beans as well. I'm not going to rag on anyone. It's a survey. It's all of that. I can say that I was a StoneX customer for 10 years in my past life and never once had anyone ask me what my yield thoughts were. I'm a little hurt by that, but it is one of those things where I can say I talk to hundreds of people across the state, between my customers, originators, agronomists, all of these people, and there is not a soul that would tell you that the yield went up across the state of Michigan from August 1st to September 1st. And not, like I said, not to rag on Stone. They bumped our corn yield up a bushel and they bumped our bean yield up 3. So I don't know who is compiling the data, out of the state of Michigan, but I can say that it's cute. It's nice. I like it. It's fun.
That's a very nice way of putting what I think what we all know what you're
Yeah, I
thinking.
mean, it's fine. It's a survey. I don't know. We'll see when harvest starts what's going on. But when I am talking to my farmers, my job is to basically like, okay, what are we expecting for production? How much space do we have? And then I decide and help them decide, what holes we fill. Where do we put things? What do we keep? What do we not keep? Yada, yada, yada. And so there's no point in them lying to me or sandbagging me with yield expectations. I just know we're down, versus a
Yeah.
year ago and versus a month ago in a big way. The StoneX survey didn't show that. They did show a little bit of a reduction, basically Iowa, and a couple others. I think Nebraska, they backed off a little bit. So we'll see. Just don't take all of these surveys that you're seeing and run with them. Because in the meantime, there was a big, large co-op in central Illinois yesterday that did their crop tour, very well followed, and they came in well below a year ago, the lowest since 2022 on their yield expectations that they discovered after doing all of their sampling. Beyond that, just kind of watching, and amazed at the lack of, attention, and maybe that'll start to change. But the lack of attention on what is taking place in Ukraine currently. You guys, first of all, we saw a reduction in the ability to load out of Chernomorsk, which is an Odessa port. We're seeing some power disruptions. We're starting to see freight rates rise because of the uncertainty in the region and some of these other things. And so there are a lot of folks that are kind of like, Ukraine's going to have a bunch of corn to export. They're going to dump it into the market structure, and maybe they will. But I will say, you've got Romania that had a major production issue. You've had some of this Eastern European area that's had some struggles. They're probably going to soak up a lot of corn first, because we are seeing what would be traditional Ukraine customers coming to the U.S. Now, I've heard different things, like, is it getting cheaper? It might be some more offers with the expectation of harvest and some of these other things, but we really have to watch that, because it's kind of become the Wild West. Russia is pushing further into the West. Ukraine is hitting Russian gasoline and refineries, and basically Putin today was like, we'll use coal, F them. Like, we don't need gas, we'll use coal. And so that's good. That's obviously a step in the future, on that regard. But, so we have that. And then we have the Coalition of the Willing, which I really wish they would rename that. It sounds gross.
Yeah,
It's just, but
you.
there's 26 countries that are involved in it. Witkoff was over there yesterday in Paris talking to them. The French leadership is kind of like, there's 26 of us and we'll put thousands of troops into Ukraine as part of our security guarantees. And Putin's like, you do that. They're assets that get to be blown up. It'll be really interesting to see. We are no closer to peace there. We're probably further away now. I think Putin's kind of...
Well, you know what? I'm glad you said that, because it just feels like things have gotten a lot worse very quickly.
Yes.
And it feels like we're definitely worse off than we were 2-3 months ago.
Yes. Yeah. I think the gathering in China I think it would embolden Putin more than it emboldened Xi, to be honest. That's my thought on it. It just really was kind of one of those where he's like, yo, I got friends. And North Korea had said that too, where they're like, well, we'll just help more then. There's a few things there that just really kind of feel like, it's a powder keg to a certain extent. Like, is there still an agreement? Like, there's always been this sort of conversation that there's a type of ad hoc agreement or something that we're not, gonna attack the commercial food ports or the loading ports or whatever. Does that stand? Does it not? Are we going to see a continuation of slowdowns? Do people want to book bushels out of Ukraine and not knowing what it looks like 6 months from now?
Well, exactly.
And so
Exactly that.
basically, yeah, Russia's kind of made it known that they want the entire territory. And I think that they're going to continue, and to see them really ramp up the attacks in Western Ukraine, how it's being ignored, by the media, not really being discussed, and trade isn't really paying attention to it. To me, that is a massive shift, from what we had seen before. And I've said this 1,000 different times. One of the reasons that you could kind of see the effect of the war go away when it came to grains was we had, not only had we created a safe shipping corridor, first the Black Sea corridor, but then the Ukrainian corridor itself. We also had seen basically where 2/3 of the country, for the most part, was able to go on with its lives. Like, did you have some errant, drones and things like that hitting Kyiv or Odessa or something and kind of causing some issues here or there? Yeah, but you also had great air defense. And now their air defenses are down. Like, we're talking about the uncertainty over funding. We don't know when the different weapons are coming in, things like that. And so just really keep an eye on that. Like, I don't know how we aren't paying more attention to it from the market
Yeah,
analysis
I'm
side.
with you.
But it's gotten a lot worse. Yeah, for sure. And so we'll have to kind of see how that plays out. But at this point, I don't see Putin, he's like, yeah, we'll talk peace, send Zelensky to, Moscow, like, and
Yeah,
like,
no, yeah, exactly.
it's
Yeah,
not
good
happening,
one.
you guys. Like, I wish it was. I wish we were seeing some sort of resolution. And I saw someone say something the other day about, well, when Ukraine, this year when Ukraine starts shipping grain or something like that, and I'm not going to say that they aren't, but, I think we all are operating under the assumption that it's all is well. And it's far from well at this point, I would
Yeah,
say.
no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
So other than
Awesome.
that, nothing. We got corn market up a couple. Wheat market's trying to do something with its life on a Friday. That'd be nice of it. Just to, do something that wasn't sucking like that. Beans are up a penny. And so yeah, we'll see what happens today as we move forward. The dollar is absolutely getting pummeled, down
Yeah,
860
no,
some
exactly.
points. So do you want a jobs report? Is that because of that? Was it higher than
Yeah,
expected?
yeah, it's obviously weaker than
Yeah,
expected as well.
I
It's
say
like
higher,
which we
but
kind of knew when we kind of knew it was going to be pretty poor, considering Trump put out a tweet saying the real number will be this time next year. So he obviously had an early look at it and knew it was going to be a shitty number.
the real
So
number will
yeah,
be this time next year. That's me when it comes to corn
yeah,
yields.
yeah. There we go, there we go.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's going to be one of those.
So
Yeah, it's going to be one of those. If you are trading today, keep it tight and just hope for the best and wait for the market to shut and enjoy your
yeah, just
weekend. I
don't do
think
anything. It's probably best. Don't make a move. Don't make eye contact. Don't talk about it. Don't look at it. Just,
exactly
yeah,
that.
it's not going to be a fun day. So, but yeah. All right.
Exactly
Well,
that.
happy Friday, everybody.
I was going to say on that cheery
Right.
note, Angie, thank you so much as always. Listeners, thank you so much as always. We really do appreciate you. Whatever you're doing, keep it tight, stay safe, and we'll see you all on Monday. Much love. Have a lovely weekend.
Have a good one, guys.